Meet Fred. He is staring at a global map, pointing his cane at a tiny, almost invisible strip of water in the Middle East. This narrow passage is not just a geographic feature. It is the single most dangerous and important economic choke point on planet Earth. Welcome to our deep dive into the Strait of Hormuz. If you want to truly understand modern geopolitics, you must understand this specific body of water. Whoever controls this strait holds the absolute power to freeze the entire global economy overnight. Today, Fred is your geopolitical guide. We will explore exactly why 30% of the world's oil flows through this tiny gap. We will break down the ongoing conflict with Iran and reveal the terrifying economic consequences of a complete naval blockade. To understand the massive scale of this vulnerability, we need to look at its geography. The Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the open ocean. It is the only sea passage for oil from the world's largest energy-producing region. The dimensions of this strait are what make it so incredibly vulnerable. At its absolute narrowest point, it is only 21 miles wide. But the actual shipping lanes used by massive supertankers are much smaller. They are only 2 miles wide in each direction. It is a massive aquatic traffic jam. Through this microscopic highway flows 20 to 30% of all globally traded oil. That is roughly 21 million barrels of oil moving through a 2-mile lane every single day. The sheer volume is staggering. If global energy is the lifeblood of the modern economy, the Strait of Hormuz is the main artery. But it is not just crude oil traversing these waters. Nearly 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas also passes through this exact same channel. This natural gas is absolutely vital for heating homes and powering factories during the brutal winter months. The countries relying on this energy are not just local neighbors. They are the massive industrial and economic engines of the modern world. Now we must introduce the geopolitical wildcard of this complex equation. The Islamic Republic of Iran physically controls the entire northern coastline of the strait. Because of this geography, Iran holds the ultimate trump card in international negotiations. For decades, the West has placed severe economic sanctions on Iran to curb its military ambitions. In response, Iran frequently threatens to mine the strait and completely blockade international shipping. It is a terrifying threat of asymmetric warfare. Iran does not need an advanced multi-billion-dollar navy to close the strait. They only need cheap naval mines, fast attack boats, and hidden anti-ship missiles positioned along their jagged, mountainous coastline. Closing the strait is incredibly cheap. Keeping the strait open, however, is massively expensive. This brings us to the role of the United States Navy. The American Fifth Fleet is stationed in nearby Bahrain for one specific reason. Their primary mission is to guarantee the free flow of commerce. American aircraft carriers constantly patrol these waters, but the geopolitical irony of this situation is absolutely fascinating. The United States is no longer the primary consumer of Middle Eastern oil. Thanks to the shale revolution, America produces its own. The real victims of a blockade in the Middle East are actually located thousands of miles away in Asia. Look at China, Japan, South Korea, and India. These massive economic powerhouses import the vast majority of their energy directly through the Strait of Hormuz. These Asian nations have very few domestic oil reserves to fall back on. A blockade here would instantly paralyze the Asian manufacturing sector. If the strait closes, China cannot power its massive factories, and Japan cannot generate necessary electricity. The entire global supply chain relies entirely on these Asian manufacturing hubs. We have a bizarre global dynamic. The West provides the expensive military security, but the East takes the vast majority of the actual oil being extracted from the region. This creates a deeply complex geopolitical triangle. China is a major economic ally of Iran, yet China would be the nation most devastated if Iran actually followed through on its threat. The entire system is built on a very delicate mutual economic destruction. You might be wondering if there are alternative routes. Could we just bypass the strait entirely? The simple answer is no. A few pipelines exist in Saudi Arabia and the UAE that completely bypass the waters of Hormuz, but they are severely limited in capacity. These alternative pipelines can only handle a tiny fraction of the 21 million barrels needed daily. The world's energy infrastructure was built assuming this specific door would always remain wide open. There is no plan B for the global economy. Historically, we have seen flashes of violence here before. During the 1980s, the tanker war saw hundreds of commercial ships attacked. Even a small skirmish causes maritime insurance premiums to instantly skyrocket, which makes everything more expensive. So, what exactly happens on day one if the unthinkable occurs and the Strait of Hormuz is completely blocked by military force? Fred pulls out a calculator to show you the brutal economic reality. The immediate reaction of financial markets would be pure panic. Global oil prices would not just rise, they would violently explode upwards. Energy analysts predict the price per barrel could instantly jump to $150 or even $200. This massive price shock would happen within hours of a blockade. The global economy is heavily addicted to cheap energy. When the price of oil doubles overnight, every single aspect of modern life becomes exponentially more expensive. This is the exact moment the geopolitical conflict directly hits your personal bank account. You will feel this crisis instantly at the gas pump. The cost to fill up your car will skyrocket, leaving you with much less disposable income for other goods. But the real economic terror happens inside the intricate layers of the global supply chain. Oil is required to move absolutely everything on this planet. Diesel fuel powers the massive container ships, the cargo trains, and the commercial delivery trucks. When diesel prices double, the cost of transporting food from the farm to the supermarket doubles. The cost of shipping raw materials instantly surges. Furthermore, oil is a core ingredient in thousands of everyday items. It is used to make plastics, synthetic fibers for clothing, and vital agricultural fertilizers. The entire physical economy relies on it. This massive spike in input costs triggers an unstoppable wave of global inflation. Central banks cannot fix this specific type of inflation by simply raising interest rates. You cannot print more oil, and you certainly cannot print a new shipping route. We saw a tiny, brief preview of this vulnerability when the Ever Given cargo ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. That single accidental incident caused billions of dollars in global economic damage. A deliberate military blockade would be 100 times worse. A prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz would cause factories to shut down globally due to a lack of power and raw materials. Airlines would be forced to cancel thousands of flights due to the exorbitant cost of jet fuel. Global travel would completely stop. The massive sudden surge in global energy prices would almost certainly trigger a deep, synchronized economic recession. Stock markets would crash as corporate profit margins are entirely wiped out by skyrocketing operational costs. The ripple effect is endless. Fred watches the supertankers slowly navigating the narrow channel on his digital map. It is a deeply sobering realization. Our modern, highly comfortable lives are entirely dependent on the safe passage of these massive steel ships through a volatile war zone. The average citizen who never pays attention to foreign policy will suddenly care deeply when their electricity bill triples in a month. Geopolitics is not just an abstract concept discussed by politicians in expensive suits behind closed doors. Geopolitics is the invisible, powerful force that directly dictates the cost of your survival. As investors and critical thinkers, we must always analyze these macroeconomic vulnerabilities. If you only look at domestic stock charts, you are completely blind. A single naval mine deployed in the Middle East can crash the New York Stock Exchange in a matter of minutes. The strategic lesson here is about true systemic risk. The global economy is heavily optimized for maximum financial efficiency and speed. However, it's deeply lacking in actual resilience. We have traded long-term strategic security for short-term corporate profits, leaving our nations highly exposed to these critical choke points. We built a beautiful house of cards on a very fragile foundation. The Strait of Hormuz will remain the ultimate geopolitical flashpoint for the foreseeable future. Until the world fully transitions away from its heavy reliance on crude oil, whoever commands this narrow strip of water will hold the global economy hostage. Fred tips his top hat to the incredible complexity of the modern world. Understanding these hidden economic arteries is the first step to protecting your own wealth. When you know where the risks are located, you can better prepare your financial portfolio. Smart investors watch these regions closely. They hedge their portfolios with assets that perform well during energy crises, such as commodities or defense contractors. They do not wait for the news to announce a blockade. They prepare for the possibility years in advance. Your financial sovereignty depends on your ability to see the bigger picture. You cannot control what happens in the waters of the Middle East, but you can absolutely control how your wealth is positioned when the geopolitical tectonic plates finally shift. Thank you for joining Fred on this deep, uncompromising dive into the world's most critical economic chokepoint. If you found this geopolitical and macroeconomic analysis valuable, make sure to hit that like button to help the algorithm share this message. Sharing this video helps educate others about the true fragility of our global supply chains. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Our mission is to connect the complex dots between global events and your personal wealth. The world is changing rapidly, and you simply cannot afford to be uninformed. We want to hear your thoughts on this situation. Leave a comment below. Do you think the global economy could survive a prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz? Or do you believe a blockade would lead to a total, devastating collapse of the financial system? We read every single comment to see how our community of strategic thinkers views these global threats. We will see you in the next episode. Stay vigilant and sharp.